Bad Luck Love, a short story written by R.E. Langell. Not every day is fraught with the perils of bad luck, but some days it's just not worth getting out of bed at all. Margot's head drooped forward over her knees. Her bum was half frozen to the concrete. Her jeans smelled musty and unclean. They were musty and unclean. She tried in vain to not scratch her head. Lice had moved in at some point, and it was all just too much. She couldn't face it anymore. She didn't even understand how this had happened. Weeks before, Margot had lived in the rich neighborhood. Her house was plaster and stucco, and beautiful. Massive. They even had a maid. Her friends were the high-class kind, the ones who swore fealty, but in reality hated you more than they hated their noses, or that little bit of skin that crushed up against their waistbands. Margot wished she could be superficial again. Oh, how she was desperate for it. A man passed her in Ray-Bans and a thick overcoat. He tossed $1 down into the cup that sat at her feet. She gave him a weak smile, trying desperately not to be too noticeable, but also just noticeable enough. She'd likely have to drown herself in the river if any of the high society crew saw her now. She scratched irritably at the lice in her now flat and waxy brown hair. Of course, this wasn't her fault. Not really. It was that skunk, Jeff's fault. Her husband had been a lawyer, top tier, powerful and charismatic. He had $1 million smile and black hair that he pomaded every day. She had loved the smell of his hair, but he had betrayed her. Not only had he been cheating with the secretary, how boring, he was defrauding the government. She had no idea until the house was repossessed and she was kicked neatly out onto the curb. He didn't even bother to show his face. He called her from an airplane and told her that she was on her own now, darling. She could hear that little tart in the background giggling at him. Margot stared at her sneakers. How did one get out of abject poverty? She'd always trusted Jeff. He did the financial work. He took care of the bills. He didn't so much as leave her a red cent to survive on. It had been 13 days now on the street, in her one set of clothing. She'd gotten very used to the idea of sleeping on the freezing ground. She could never raise enough funds to sleep in a homeless shelter. Who decided that? That the homeless had to pay for a bed each night. It was ridiculous. If they could afford anything, they wouldn't be sitting on the streets, shivering in their boots. She noticed with worry that she was already associating herself as part of the they. A woman in tall stilettos and a gorgeous pantsuit passes, and mutters to no one in particular the word disgusting. Margot wants to scream at these people. How dare they judge her? What choice did she have? She'd never worked. She met Jeff, fell in love, and they married. He set her up in luxury. Working wasn't necessary. Actually, when you got that high on the social ladder, you couldn't work. You simply didn't have the time. You needed to be constantly schmoozing and circulating. She'd called a few different friends at the time of her ejection. Bad luck, love, they'd said just before hanging up. Not a soul among them. Not a single person thought that they should put her up in one of their many guest rooms, or support her at all. She'd spent the first few days on the street kicking cans and being very angry. But 13 days tempers the insulted feelings fast. Survival was the only goal now. Revenge would be later, much later, if ever she could crawl out. A paper floats down into her cup. She's missed the deliverer. She leans forward and plucks it out. Curiosity hasn't failed her yet, but 10 to 1 says that this is a rude message. They always were. That or a pamphlet to finding God. The paper is torn. The missive is in handwriting. Who even uses handwriting anymore? When do you begin to stand on your own 2 feet? It reads. When no one else will do it for you. A bad pun? A riddle? A fortune from one of those hard little Chinese cookies? Margot stares at this paper with a long, icy stare. She stands, but it takes work. She is sore and achy. Her bum is asleep. Pins and needles shoot through her legs. Fine, then. How does she go about crawling out of this hole? She looks at the ring on her finger. A lawyer, perhaps, but they'd never take her seriously as she is now. She doesn't even have her wallet. Everything is still in the house. Since Jeff flew the coop, the police have claimed the home as a treasure trove of evidence. She laughs at this idea. Now that she thinks about it, Jeff didn't really leave any imprint in the house at all. It was her. It was her design, her furniture, her knickknacks. His life was always self-contained, though in light of his criminal past, there was probably a reason for that. Margot took her cup with its $4 and went to a nearby coffee shop. They would glare down their noses at her, but she'd get a coffee and maybe an application. She needed money, and she was going to have to start from literally the bottom. She would also need to open a bank account, but that would be probably nearly impossible. Maybe she would go drop into a mission or a church somewhere and see what they would do for her. She used to donate her dirty money to them all the time. There are photos in past newspapers of her considerable charitable donations. After returning the application to the somewhat disgusted barista, Margot heads off in search of her church. She'd once been a die-hard Catholic, but in recent years she had stopped going and just sent her money. Who had the time to listen to those stuffy speeches anyway? She had more important matters to attend to at the country club then. The church is a large Gothic revival building that boasts massive panes of stained glass. She enters the building slowly. She almost feels as if she's crossing some forbidden threshold. It's also perilous. People could recognize her here. A flood of feeling smacks her in the gut, warring with her embarrassment. Good, she thinks. Let them see what they've done to me. Father Grober is the same stodgy old man as ever. Pleasant, judgmental without being openly so. In another life, he'd have done very well among the socialites. He is floored by her current condition and can refer her to many good soup kitchens and missions, but there is nothing he can do with her for a job or a permanent address. No address, no job, she says to him in a thin, worn voice before storming away. Once her voice was thick and luscious. It dripped with the riches and health that cloaked her comfortably. She storms out of the stuffy church. She wanders around aimlessly. How can she sort this out? She goes to her old house. All her clothes are inside. Her purse. Not that she suspects she's part of the accounts anymore. Jeff was always quick to action. A shower, though. Oh, how desperately she wants a shower. An officer stands guard at the door. They still suspect Jeff will turn up here eventually, but they really don't understand him at all. He's never coming back. And the realization hits her like a ton of bricks. Now she looks like a true crazy person, sobbing outside a rich house in front of a cop. She's probably being viewed by her snooty neighbors right now. They'll be judging her. He's never coming back, she yells randomly. She looks at the cop. He looks at her. He's young and uncomfortable. No one told him the crazies camp here. She rushes up the small incline to the steps that lead inside her cavernous once-dom. You're wasting your time. Her voice is almost venomous. Not that it's this poor man's fault. Please move along, miss, he says, but his voice isn't as firm as he probably hoped. I'm not a miss. She leans in conspiratorially, and his hand goes to his gun. I'm Mrs. Wickham. I was left for dead. Maybe I am dead. She doesn't turn. She's lost it. She can feel her loss. This is her new life. No address, no job, no way to crawl outside her own skin. The officer is speaking into his radio. Another uniformed man appears. So neat, so tidy. She's never realized before how strongly soap smells on a person. It's a squeaky smell, a smell of the unreal. Ma'am, he states, we've been looking for you. A third man appears in a stodgy suit. It's brown and slightly wrinkled. Can't be me. She does a turn, pirouetting herself slightly away from them. I'm just a crazy lady. If I had any money, I could get a cat. She cackles and hisses before repeating her new mantra. No address, no job. No address, no job. We'd like you to come to the station. We have some forms and things for you to sign. The uniformed soap officer steps toward her. Not me, not me. He left me for dead. Dead. 13 days. 13 days. How many more before I die? She's spiraling, and she can feel hot tears streaking her dirty face. She is unable to resist as they set her up in the back seat of the police car. At the station, she sits in a hyper-sanitized room. She's been here before, when the house was first repossessed. Soap Cop sits across from her with a folder in his hand. She's spilled all about her last 13 days, the myriad applications she's put in, the disgust she's endured, the desperate attempts to put even a morsel of moldy food down her throat. 13 days of debasement and bad luck love, she thinks. Soap Cop's eyes are sympathetic, but his fingers are tight around the folder. Your luck isn't getting better. His voice is strained. It's probably her smell. He opens the folder. These records indicate that you are the one who embezzled the cash. She laughs riotously. She's crying. She's laughing so hard. She can't calm down. Margot points to herself as if it just paints the picture all the clearer and struggles to breathe. I realize you've been on the street without a penny, but that doesn't mean you didn't initiate the crime. It just means that you might have gotten double-crossed. Faced with such outright psychotic mirth, he's getting annoyed. Well, why not? She folds her arms across her chest. She's struggling to rein it in, but already she can see herself provided for in prison. Not ideal, but it's better than the street. She'd be fed, clothed, and clean. A veritable palace by comparison. Mrs. Wickham, he begins, but she cuts him off. Would I go to prison? Yes. How long? I'm sure they'd go easy on you, given the circumstances. Several years either way. He returns, but his eyebrows raise. She agrees to confess, but it's clear very quickly that she doesn't know the first thing about embezzlement or how to go about it. She doesn't even know which accounts were hit. The officer leaves her alone for a while, and he seems to be sad. If this doesn't work, she supposes she'll have to try and find a pimp. She shudders. That would be the worst, but she needs cash to get out, and there's no way to get out until she goes down. They release her. Just like that, she's back out onto the street in the cold air. The idea of a pimp is painful. She walks to a lawyer's office instead. She'll file for divorce and attempt to get some of her life back that way. They take her information at the office, but they seem to be humoring her more than anything. But then, the world can't even find her husband. He's disappeared. Could she have him declared dead? No. He's alive. They simply can't extradite him from his hiding hole with that little tart. As she steps back onto the street, it begins to rain. Great. She trudges along, getting soaked. A car roars past, and the tidal wave tops her by a head before crashing down. She finds shelter under the bridge. A few others are there, but they keep far away from her bedraggled mess. She mentally ticks off the things she's tried in the last 2 weeks to crawl out of this hole. Nothing is working. She'd flirted with the idea of prostitution far earlier in the days of her numb stupefaction, but at the crunch time she'd always bailed. She couldn't do it. She could carry herself off to the river, let her luck drag her under its murky depths. She's bending her steps that way now, without realizing it. She's in front of the river. The muddy bank is squelching around her shoes. She takes one step toward the edge, but pulls back. He'd win this way. How could she let him take everything, including her life? But what else is left? She turns around to see a man standing on the road, rain splattering around his umbrella, and he is staring at her. He beckons her to go over to him. She goes, in abeyance, though she doesn't really know why. He's magnetized, but when did she eat a magnet? His green eyes stare at her. His arm goes out, and the umbrella is suddenly over her. The rain is pattering around her, but not on her. He, instead, is getting wet. She cannot speak. She's overwhelmed. Her face is wet with the tears she is now silently shedding. He does not speak, just stares and holds that rainbow-colored umbrella above her head while the rain turns into a storm that whips and hurls debris around them. "It's good luck that I was here," he says.